You're listening to a Mamma Mia podcast.
Mamma Mia acknowledges the traditional owners of land and waters that this podcast is recorded on. Mamma Mia Out Loud! Hello and welcome to Mamma Mia Out Loud. It's what women are actually talking about on Monday, the 18th of November, and I am Holly Wainwright.
I'm Mia Freedman.
And I'm Jessie Stevens.
And on our show today, surely the tallest of poppies is the man who declares himself the sexiest man alive. So who's the latest and what's the strategy? Also, bullying, phones and a teenage girl's legacy. What actually needs to change to fulfil what's being called Charlotte's wish? And has it been the year of the thirsty midlife woman? Bridget Jones is back. She's dating a younger man, and at least one millennial columnist thinks enough now. But first, Jessie.
In case you missed it, when you put up your Christmas decorations apparently says a lot about you. Have either of you guys put up your tree, your decorations, your lights?
I am exceptionally strict about this. Oh. Famous in my family for being exceptionally strict.
You're a Grinch.
Yeah.
What's the rule?
Absolutely not until midway through December at the earliest.
Checks out.
Really?
Mia, how about you?
It's so funny you bring this up today because just yesterday I said to Coco, let's put up the Christmas tree soon. Luna will love it. It will be so fun.
Yeah.
Because for me, firstly, it's a thing to do. And secondly, it's shiny, sparkly, like it's my dream.
Okay, well, that's actually a good point. That might be the other point in your personality. You're Mia and you like the sparkles. But people who put their Christmas decorations up early, so that means October or November, are
heathens.
Well, no, Holly, they're considered more sociable, joyful and nostalgic.
No, they're not.
So Professor Erlanger A. Turner, he's a clinical psychologist, so he knows more than you, Holly. He says that early decorations can be explained by the anticipation of joy theory.
There we go. No. You're big on that, Hole.
I'm obsessed with this because if you put your Christmas decorations up now, by Christmas, you don't even see them. They're invisible. No. They're just wallpaper, right?
No.
Whereas Christmas, I love Christmas so much. Like, I love it. It's a very specific period of time. It's precious. It's special.
No.
You can't have it all year.
Turner says that anticipating joy, you've got to lean into it and you've got to prolong it because it boosts your mood and well-being and your sense of excitement and happiness, that feeling you're talking about, just prolong.
No, but the anticipation of doing it is the exciting thing. I have this whole thing with the kids. We're not allowed to play Christmas music until we're on our way to get the Christmas tree. Not allowed to have any of that. That's the anticipation.
Do you get a real one?
Exciting.
A real Christmas tree?
Every time.
Are you also one of those people that complain about hot cross buns being available too early?
I don't care about that.
Or
Okay.
Easter eggs?
Don't care.
Apparently, early decorators are also more nostalgic as people because they want to relive their own childhoods. Is that you?
I'm very nostalgic about
Okay.
Christmas. That's why it has to be protected.
Well, this bit, I think, speaks to you. Putting them up early is a signifier of sociability because it means that you're someone who's trying to establish new friendships. So when you decorate your house, you like the idea
Inside
that people...
my house?
No, like let's say you put up Christmas lights.
Oh, I don't
and
do
people
that.
come
Oh, I
past
do.
and they like chat to you. Holly doesn't want to be chatted to before mid-December. I think that people who put them up early, optimist. It is very hope punk. It is very I love joy. I love the sparkly things.
Also impatient.
Impatient.
Bores
Absolutely.
easily.
I've got 3 famous people that I'm going to throw out and I want you to tell me whether you
You
think...
know what else that you haven't discussed, and it's because I'm English. It's classy to wait.
Classy.
Classy.
Throwdown.
Oh
It
my
is. It's
goodness.
classy. It's like, this is a special thing, right? We protect special things. You can't just go tinsel all the time, la, la, la. No, it's not. That's not what
Can
it
I
is.
just ask you, before I get to these 3 people, when do you take them down?
I take them down.
Because there is a right answer.
Well, yeah, January the 6th. But
Yeah.
I take them down usually on the 2nd.
Who made that up?
It's
Apparently
12th night.
12 days of Christmas.
Yeah.
Duh.
Come on now.
All right.
We
Mia
can leave
Freedman.
our Christmas lights up till
January.
Okay,
said
so
Taylor Swift.
This is our house.
Or February. This is our house. We make the rules.
I'm assuming that's a lyric.
It is.
Okay, these are 3 famous people. You can tell me whether they put their Christmas decorations up early. Anthony Albanese.
Oh, no. It's busy.
Very busy.
I reckon he's an early decorations guy.
No.
He's sociable and he's just like, he likes a bit of joy, a bit of fun. I think he's nostalgic for his childhood.
I bet his office decorations go up quite early.
Yeah, right.
Because that's another thing, right? Depending on how much time you take off.
People have started here.
Yes, you put your Christmas decorations up early so that everybody can get in the spirit.
Okay, second one, J-Lo.
You see, the thing is this is tricky because the J-Los and the Kardashians of the world, they have very expensive decorators who do this stuff for them, right? And they one-up themselves every year. So do you remember Kim Kardashian's like all white Christmas trees? That would be 6 months in the planning. You would want that to be up for a while, wouldn't you, to justify the millions of dollars?
Do you know why she can't? Because she's got another festival before that, which is Thanksgiving. So it's just been Halloween. It's Thanksgiving. I was actually looking at a photo that she posted to her social of herself outside her fuck-off mansion with some kind of tacky-looking like signs about this way to the pumpkin patch and some sort of fake
very J-Lo.
pumpkin. So you're right, Hol. It was very like get the decorators in. So I think I don't know what the festive themes are for Thanksgiving, but then I think she's got to pace herself.
Okay, well, I have one more, and there is a right answer to this. Meghan Markle. Is she an early decorator or is she waiting like Holly? She's an early decorator. She is so smiley and ho punk. I reckon that she would be, she'd have them up already.
No, I think she is so kind of earnest that she would not want to put up Christmas decorations without also putting up Hanukkah decorations and Kwanzaa decorations.
But she lives with an Englishman. And English people are very serious about Christmas in general because it's the only thing that's nice at that time of year, right? It's winter, it's dark for 14 hours of the day, like your fairy lights. So he wouldn't want the decorations up December 1st. He wouldn't.
The Sexiest Man Alive for 2024 has been named by People magazine, and it is someone that you may have never heard of. His name is John Kransinski.
People know John Kransinski from The Office.
Yes, he's married to Emily Blunt.
I ate a tuna sandwich on my first day, so Andy started calling me Big Tuna. I don't think any of them actually know my real name.
Yes, on Out Loud, that is how we denote famous people, by which women they're married to.
Mr. Emily Blunt.
Yeah, well, you've got ahead of me because I had a quick primer on Sexy John. He is that guy from The Office.
Jim.
He played Jim. He's married to Emily Blunt. He's 45. They have 2 kids.
He also wrote The Quiet Place. He starred in the first one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Didn't star in the second one because he knew he's not that much of a draw card. Some would say.
Oh, my God.
I mean, I think he's fine. What's interesting, a couple of things that are
lovely.
interesting. People magazine, in the gossip tabloid magazine, you know, brands that are still left, People magazine is like the official one of Hollywood. It likes to do the right thing by publicists. It's very mainstream, middle of the road. I guess the equivalent would be the Australian Women's Weekly, but more gossipy.
It's like Hollywood's neighbourhood newsletter.
Yeah.
So if you read something in People, it's probably true.
Probably.
Yeah. It's probably true. They don't like to piss off publicists because they like, you know, if a celebrity has an official announcement to make, it's a safe place.
But it doesn't mean it's necessarily true. It's what they want to tell you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's authorised
It's
by that celebrity.
authorised. That's exactly it. It's authorised.
Like all sort of magazine brands, its audience are rapidly aging out and its relevance is sort of falling away because we have TMZ, we have Demois, we have a million gossip sites, Daily Mail. They've been doing the Sexiest Man Alive since the 80s. The first one, actually, do you know who it was?
I do.
Mel Gibson.
Our very own.
1985.
Well, have we not disowned him yet?
And they've been doing it every year. And what's interesting is how this year they have turned it into a bit of a pop culture event. And it worked because they had like a countdown timer. They planted a lot of speculation items in other sort of gossip sites. Who's it going to be? Who's it going to be? And the reason that it's become so interesting is that the way it works is that they can't just name someone. The person they name has to agree to being given the title because they have to sit down for an interview and do a photo shoot and be booked on all the late night talk shows and whatever and give interviews about it, right? So there's that. And then there's the fact that since there's been social media and all of these other things, it's a bit embarrassing. Like it used to be something that would be really, really good for your career. The list of men who've done it over the years, you know, it's a who's who. Ryan Reynolds back in 2010, Bradley Cooper, Channing Tatum, Adam Levine, Chris Hemsworth, David Beckham, The Rock.
Intervention question. Now it's that thing where you have to cooperate. But I think it used to just be they stuck your picture on the cover.
No, you've always had to do an interview. But back in the day, pre-social media, of course you'd sort of do it. I think the world's just changed and People magazine used to be kind of cool and now it's not. Anyway, Bit weird in 2017 when it was Blake Shelton.
That was a weird moment.
Yeah.
I didn't know who that was.
He was a country singer, a judge on American Idol, married to Gwen Stefani.
Ah.
That's his law.
Trivia.
Yeah. Just like, oh, I know that guy, the one with the hat. So far, all the names I've listed apart from The Rock have been very, very white. But in
Denzel.
Earlier it was Denzel. 2018, Idris Elba. 2019, John Legend. 2020, Michael B. Jordan. Then it started getting really weird about 2021 because for the last few years, they've sort of named people who were a little outside what you would say the zeitgeist. 2021, Paul Rudd.
I reckon that was bang on.
2022, Chris Evans.
Also think it was bang on.
2023 was mystifying. It was Patrick Dempsey.
That was mystifying, yes.
And everyone was like, well, it was meant to be Ryan Gosling because it was the year of Barbie, right?
No, remember it was a writer's strike. And so no one could talk about any upcoming projects.
Yeah.
And so they had to just choose someone that was famous 10 years ago.
It's never been like a Chalamet.
No.
not yet.
So some of the rumours and some of the people that you would say is the zeitgeist at the moment, Glenn Powell.
Mm-hmm.
No, we'll get to him in a second. Pedro Pascal. He would have been a no.
He would have been my pick.
Travis Kelce. I thought it was going to be Travis Kelce because he's thirsty for a title and he would have loved it and he would have got into the spirit of it. Taylor, I think, would have liked it.
Paul Mescal, with Gladiator.
Bit young for that audience.
Yeah.
Same with Timothée Chalamet. Jonathan Bailey, star of Bridgerton, gay. That would have been an interesting choice, but perhaps not right for that demographic. Now, sometimes people come back for a repeat, and so there was some speculation before the last few weeks events unfolded that it might be Hugh Jackman again, newly single.
Yeah, well, Hugh Jackman, this is my Roman Empire at the moment. I can't stop thinking about his alleged new girlfriend. Have you guys seen this news? Sutton Foster.
I keep calling her Sutton Forest because that's a place in regional New South Wales, but that's not what she's called apparently.
No, Sutton Foster. And I know her from Younger because she was the lead in that. But I didn't realise that she's a very famous Broadway star, Tony nominated, very, very well regarded.
Been doing Broadway plays since she was like 4 years old.
Yeah. And so in 2021, she started work on this play called The Music Man opposite Hugh Jackman. She'd been married for a decade to a Hollywood guy. Hugh Jackman was with Deborah Lee Furness at the time.
Been married almost 30 years.
Yeah. And then, of course, he announced his divorce just last year. And then 1 month ago, Sutton Foster announced her split from her husband. And now there are all these reports in Us Weekly saying that they are 100% together.
Very
They're going
well sourced.
to restaurants in New York. They're doing their little walks around Central Park and everyone's saying they are on. I'm interested because she's 49. She's not 22.
He's about 56, I think.
Yeah. So,
And Deborah Lee was 68. So Deborah Lee copped so much over the time they were together for the fact that she was older than him. She didn't look like someone that you would assume the hottest man in the world would be married to. She gave up her own career as an actor pretty much to support him over the last 30 years. She was a phenomenal actor. They met actually when they were co-starring in something in Australia. But the reason that this is kind of now jumped from pure gossip, it was the cover of Us Weekly last week that was very well sourced. But there's a gossip columnist who did a little reel about it saying that Hugh and Sutton were together. And someone has forensically tracked that Deborah Lee's private account liked it. And one of her friends left a comment saying, "You're on track with this one. And my beloved friend Deborah Lee will be having her glow up very soon." So anyway, Hugh Jackman out of contention.
Glow up? That's a bitchy thing to say about your friend.
I know.
But what's interesting is that this is kind of media gossip. But what happened is that annually there are very few of these sort of lists and things that come out. But another famous one is Vanity Fair's Hollywood issue, where they have this sort of what's called a gatefold cover, which is one of the ones that fold out. And there are certain celebrities on the front, but then there are sort of others
I used to
on the
collect
inside.
those. I've still got them from the 1990s.
They're pretty iconic.
I've got the one that had the first ever time I saw Gwyneth Paltrow, Leonardo DiCaprio, Claire Danes were all on the Hollywood covers.
Yeah, so usually it's like there's a few people and they don't usually sit at the same time. You know, Annie Leibovitz will photograph them and then stitch it all together and Photoshop it all together. They're meant to come out in February, but they came out on the same day as Sexiest Man Alive. Guess who's on the cover? With Nicole Kidman and Zendaya and Zoe Saldana.
Glenn Powell.
Well,
they also had Dev Patel, who I think is one of the hottest men in the world.
Agreed.
Jonathan Bailey, he appeared on it.
Why would you want to do it, right? Because I get all this. I understand how magazines work. But John Kransinski, I know that you're kind of making him sound like a B-lister. He's not. He's like unbelievably cool. Best mates with George Clooney, gets movies made, married to Emily Blunt. Like, why would he want to be sexiest
I'm not
man
personally
alive?
saying that he's sexy or not sexy or
No,
whatever.
no,
but
I
it
know,
was more the zeitgeist of it.
But my
There's
point
no
is, like,
reason.
why would he want to be that?
Well,
Okay.
funny you say that. The Demois blind item. Demois, which is now like literally the opposite of People magazine. It's on Instagram and they publish unsourced, unverified rumours.
Possibly untrue rumours. let's
Many
be honest.
untrue rumours. Very few fans among publicists in Hollywood. But they said that it's been well known for a while that the title is available to purchase for several $1 million, and celebrities who need a boost to their careers and to be seen as relevant again will outlay several $1 million for the currency that it buys them.
So I was thinking about this.
What do
I
you think
reckon
about
that
that?
I
one
don't believe
thing is that John,
I don't believe magazines
Kransinski-
have, I just don't believe it.
I reckon he gets mixed up with Ryan Reynolds. And I think that this year, with the explosion of the Blake Lively Ryan Reynolds thing, I think that there's a bit of confusion because it's like tall guy, brown hair, brown eyes, like they all kind of look the same. That's the first thing. The second thing is that he has a few projects coming up. So they are developing a Jack Ryan feature film starring him. And so he might be trying
needs
to
some
get a bit
buzz.
currency.
Oh, and also that's like action movie, Sexiest Man Alive
Yeah,
territory.
yeah. He's trying to become establish himself as a heartthrob.
He's relaunching.
Yeah. And the other thing is he had a movie come out this year, a kids movie called If.
I watched that twice.
Is it good?
Well, you know.
Was it sexy?
It's not sexy,
But
and his part is very small. I think maybe Ryan Reynolds directed it.
Yeah,
It's
he
him
did.
and Ryan Reynolds are besties.
see what I mean? You get them mixed up. The other thing I was thinking looking at this cover is that back in 1989 or whenever it started, we were more earnest as a culture and we weren't icked by the vision of a man putting on a smouldering gaze.
First.
The look on John Krasinski's face is so cringe. I think it's because we are now in the age of irony and cynicism.
Oh, yes.
Everything's got to be tongue-in-cheek. And there is something so not tongue-in-cheek
Yeah.
about pulling a sexy face and having Sexiest Man Alive when we knew you agreed to it. Like imagine, and then you've got to go and sit on all the talk shows or whatever. Like you would never want to be called it because then everyone gets to debate it.
That's why I don't understand it.
You want to be accidentally sexy. You don't want to be like, you don't want the title. And there is nothing less sexy than trying to perform it.
Especially if you are his whole shtick in the world
It's funny
is
guy.
a funny guy, slightly sarky guy, slightly cynical guy.
Yeah.
Right? Like he's one of the SNL kind of people.
Okay, so therefore, Jessie, that tracks with what you're saying, because if you say that each of those guys are of their time and what the world needs at that moment, perhaps part of their choice is that he's a wife guy, very much a wife guy. There's no scandal except for when some lip readers last year at the Oscars thought that he was on the red carpet with her saying, I can't wait to get
A
divorced. He was actually saying, I can't wait to get indoors because it was cold on the red
Also, guys,
carpet.
people don't talk like that.
But I think that if you're suddenly put in the realm of all these other people, because no one would have mentioned him in the company of Chris Hemsworth, David Beckham, The Rock, John Legend, Idris Elba, all of those people, Chris Evans, you wouldn't go, oh, John Krasinski. But now this literally does that. It puts him back in the conversation. So I get what's in it for him. I do. But I also see that you have to be in a thirsty phase in your career where you need it more than it needs you.
There's always just a script, right? Because as we know, it's been going on for years. What used to happen is they'd get a nice shot of you, they stick it in there. You're among 20 other people. Like it's a Sexiest Man issue, right? But you're the best. Then they have to just say, and they always say, oh, yeah, my wife thought it was hilarious. And then she said, take the bins out. Like that's what they say every time. And it's just this boring script. The thing that I'm most interested in actually is not who it is, but the way they've managed to bring it back into the zeitgeist, because all the young women here couldn't wait to see who it was. They were talking about it, taking bets on it. And when they came out, they quite liked this pick because he is the, funny wife guy and they like that. So I think that's a very smart move. I just don't understand why he'd do it. It's embarrassing.
Question. What kind of bear is best?
That's a ridiculous question.
False. Black bear.
Well, that's debatable.
Fact. Bears eat beets.
Oh.
Bears. Beets.
We do need change. This can't be the best that we can do for our kids. Bullying today is very different from when it was when I was back in the schoolyard. Most of your problems were left at the school gates, but it's different now. It follows kids home. When they've got a device in their hand, it can be the last thing that they read before they go to bed at night, the first thing that they read in the morning. These online platforms were never designed for kids to use. Some of the stories that, we are aware of, our own experiences and stories that have been shared by other parents to ours, they are horrendous stories.
That was Matt O'Brien, the father of 12-year-old Charlotte O'Brien, who died by suicide in September of this year. In a special documentary launched yesterday called Charlotte's Wish, the Sunday Telegraph tracks 4 families whose daughters were bullied before taking their own lives. And all are putting pressure on schools to come up with more rigorous bullying policies and interventions. Specifically, Charlotte's parents support the federal government raising the legal age of using social media to 16. They also want a standardised approach to bullying across all public, private and independent schools. Matt O'Brien told 9 News that he thinks parents need help. I think teachers need help. I think principals need help. It needs to be one set of rules for all kids, irrespective of what school they go to. And now, for the first time, private, public and religious schools across New South Wales will unite under a new state government plan to develop one anti-bullying policy, which the Deputy Premier says will be a priority moving into the new year. Holly, is it just me or did you not know that we didn't already have a standardised policy for bullying?
I didn't think we had a standardised policy for bullying because I know that, parents of kids at primary schools and high schools will always talk about whatever kind of school their kids go to. This school's really good on bullying. That school's no good on bullying. Like, it's such a big issue. So I wasn't surprised to know we didn't have that. But when I went to look, and this is obviously it varies from state to state, but when I went to look at the existing policy for New South Wales today, it is very much there is no tolerance. Every school should have a strategy in place, but there is no actual suggestion of what that strategy should be. Having said that, I've had kids going through the public school system for more than 10 years now. Bullying is talked about constantly. There is so much more awareness about bullying, about kindness, about all those things than there certainly was when I was at school, for example, which obviously was a very long time ago. So there's a lot of discussion about it. But the tricky part here, and the part that's really interesting to unpick, is as it relates to phones, because where does the school's jurisdiction stop and start? Anyone who has a tween or a teen knows a lot about the tyranny of group chats. And one of the things that happened to Charlotte, as I understand it, is that she was targeted in group chats by schoolmates who called her names in those group chats, who persecuted her, who started group chats that excluded her. That is almost, and I hate to say this, and I'm sure there'll be people listening saying, that is almost standard now. Like, I don't know any tweens or teens who haven't had dramas with group chats. And they might be on different platforms. So they might be on Snapchat, they might be on Messenger, they might be on WhatsApp, although kids that I know don't use that. And so they're in a lot of different places. And the social media ban, as it's proposed, is aimed at that, right? To try and keep the kids off those platforms for as long as they can, which seems on the surface of it to be a very good idea. This isn't something that's only being talked about in Australia. Everyone in the world is looking at Australia to see if we're really going to push that button about social media bans. But then there are mental health experts who don't believe that is the solution for teenagers, because they say that vulnerable teens get a lot of help and assistance on social media platforms, and that often that's where they get help. And, there are lots of sort of organisations like Lifeline and Beyond Blue and Headspace and the Butterfly Foundation. They have very savvy social media outreach now, and even bots that you can ask help of and all those things. And they're saying getting kids off those platforms isn't necessarily the answer. Maybe the answer rather is to make those places safer. So it's like the idea of, do you get rid of backyard pools or do you build a fence around the backyard pools?
I think that's with respect to those organisations, I think that reveals a real naivety about how the algorithm works, because what social does, and listening to Charlotte's father, I mean, the pain in that man's voice, you can just hear it. I'll disagree with one thing that he says, which is these platforms weren't designed for kids. It's worse than that. They were designed to addict children. and they are designed to keep children there for as long as possible. And so it's been shown in leaked documents at Meta that these algorithms, and we know that TikTok works in the same way, if you're interested in something, if you watch a video about depression or anorexia, that algorithm will serve you more and more and more and more content about that and more extreme content about that topic. So, yeah, maybe the support foundations who are honestly trying against the greatest odds to help these people, maybe they will be available on these social media platforms, but they're no match for the algorithm that will absolutely saturate these kids.
And also think about like Snap Streaks, for example. So Snapchat has all its own incentives to keep you talking on that platform all the time.
It's designed to be addictive.
Exactly. So they're very much designed for children.
What I thought was interesting today also, I read that there's a school in Sydney, a private school. It's a girls' school, and they did some research into their school community that showed a lot of children spend between 4 and 7 hours a day on their smartphones, and almost 50% of parents say a smartphone had changed their child's personality.
Oh, wow.
And next year they've decided to introduce something called Wise Phones, where the school is going to actually provide all the students in the school from year 4 to year 10, I think, with restricted use phones that are tailored to their age group. So, for example, the phones that the year 4 to 5 students get will only be able to make calls and send texts. In years 5 to 7, they can add a camera as well as payment and learning apps. And then in years 8 and 9, they can access chat groups, Spotify and Bluetooth, and the restrictions end in year 10. And something that I thought was really interesting about this is the principal said, she compared it to learning to swim, using phones. And she said, we don't hurl kids into a pool straight away. We skill them up over time. And she also said that she came up with this idea after talking to girls. It's not come from parents, it's come from girls. And year 9 girls were saying they wish that they didn't have phones and that social media and phones had impacted. And one thing that I thought was so interesting in this article, it just spoke to me. It said, parents who are balancing their reluctance to put access to the depths of the internet in a student's pocket from age 12 with the reality that everyone else does have embraced this particular proposal, because that's the thing, right?
Yeah, but then another criticism of the social media ban is that they say kids will find ways around it. Like, you ban your kid from this or whatever, they'll find a way around it. And when they do, will they not tell any adults because they know they shouldn't be on it? Like, is that going to then prevent them from talking to their parents? Because, in fact, Matt O'Brien, I was on the desk last night with Matt O'Brien when he came into the project to talk about what happened. And his advice to parents was to try and keep the lines of communication really open. And no matter what it is and no matter what you've done and no matter if you're on an app that you shouldn't be on, you have to tell us what's going on because it's so secretive, I suppose.
Most parents I know, that's your line with the kids, right? You say, I would rather you didn't do blah, blah, blah. I don't want you talking to strangers on the internet. I don't want you doing this, this, this. But if you do, tell me all about it. And the thing is that parents are powerless. This is the problem with this, is that what you were just saying then, Mia, about this thing we're battling about the idea of whether or not to hand this potentially very dangerous thing to them or whether not to. It's also when you do, you've kind of got this picture in your head of, well, I won't let my kid do this and I won't let them do that and I'll put this software on it, I'll have this password on it. But the thing is that we also know that they're smart, often very much smarter than we are technologically about how to get around all that stuff. And for all the reasons that you just spelled out, we know that we will never enforce any of those rules because what we really want is to keep our kids alive. And so we're kind of toothless.
And it's conflicting. There's so much conflicting advice, right? And one of the most heartbreaking details I heard was Charlotte's mother speaking to a police officer, and the thing in the aftermath that she kept repeating was how did she do this? And the police officer said, we're living in the age of information. All she had to do was Google. In terms of the means and the information, that's what's different, right? It's like even Google didn't exist when I was Charlotte's age. But the other thing I feel like is maybe missing from this conversation, I'm not sure how we do it, but we're talking to parents. I don't think this is on parents. We're talking to teachers. I don't think this is totally on teachers. I think that there are a lot of people doing their best. How about the bullies? Like, I keep thinking as well, imagine if you were one of those kids that sent those messages, because Matt O'Brien said that he has read those last messages and they are the worst things you could say to someone, and they now exist. Those kids have to live with what they said. But girls in particular, I can speak to girls because I went to a girls' high school, the insidious ways that bullying can occur, the clever ways that they do it, and ways in which if you told a teacher you might sound crazy. Like I remember going, I might have told this story before, but I went to invited to the movies by my friends, and I turned up and they all ran and hid. And I was left at this, shopping centre. That's not really on the teachers, that's on the weekend. And then they say that it's a joke. And now you're being pursued in the privacy of your own bedroom, and it's constant. And I just know that there are a lot of teachers that I'm speaking to who are trying to monitor this, they're saying it disappears. Yeah. You've got parents who are jumping on and getting involved.
Yeah, parents getting involved. I think another reason that kids are often too scared to tell their parents that they're being bullied is the fear that their parents will take the phone away. And I understand that instinct because it's what I would want to do too. But the fear of that stops them from even speaking up. Yeah. Because the idea of that's like taking their lifeline away.
We all have an addiction. Imagine if someone took our phone away. Yeah. It's like it's everything, and then you feel punished for being on the receiving end of it. But
also, it's for nearly 10 years I've worked now in digital media, obviously, and I've interviewed a million experts on this. When I used to host This Glorious Mess, which was a parenting show, when we did the Teen Summit here, just the year before last, I spoke to Matt Corana, who did try and take his own life when he was 17. It left him with lifelong injuries, and he is now a full-time advocate about this. I've interviewed people who are experts in all these fields, and they tell parents all these lists of this is what you should do when you give your child a phone, and whether it's check or don't check, whether it's trust, whether it's don't trust, whether it's don't give them a phone at all, or whether it's, because the other thing is that kids, especially in these group chats and things, they're all talking to each other as if there are no, like imagine a group of children with no adults in the room just going for it. Not all of the children in there are going to be saying lovely things to each other all the time, right? Yeah. They're going to say things that they wouldn't want their mum to see them say because they know that it would be rude or mean, but they don't necessarily know the impact. I know that's not necessarily the case in some of these horrific stories. There's very deliberate and very direct wording. But it's this massive soup. And even with all the information that I have learned over the years, I still feel completely helpless about it when it comes to what's the best way to handle it with my kids. I've heard a lot of discussion around the social media ban about people being, parents just need to step up. Or teachers, as you've said, parents just need to step up. Who ever said you had to give them a phone in the first place? And everyone's pointing their fingers. We are in uncharted waters. We are in completely uncharted waters, which is why I do ultimately think that the responsibility ends up back with the tech platforms who are not policing or gatekeeping or removing dangerous information at anything like the speed that we know they could if they wanted to. That really has to be where you go back to pointing the finger.
But then I think it's multi-pronged, right? It's social media ban, if that's what the experts say we should do. It's bullying in schools. I just think it's very heartening to see that change has happened and that Albanese has been able to look Charlotte's parents in the eye and say, we're doing something. And this stuff is all world leading, as it should be. If this segment has brought up anything for you, there are links to support services in the show notes.
Every Tuesday and Thursday, we drop new segments of Mamma Mia Out Loud just for Mamma Mia subscribers. Follow the link in the show notes to get your daily dose of Out Loud, and a big thank you to everyone who is already subscribed.
I have feedback for the boss of Tuna and similarly for the boss of chocolate.
Because feedback is a gift.
It is a gift.
Well, thanks for the feedback.
Great. I'd love your feedback.
What a gift.
We need to tone it down on the varieties. I went the other day to buy a can of just plain tuna in my local supermarket, and I felt like I was being pranked. Do you want chili oil? Spring water, soy and ginger, lemon and pepper, garlic, basil, mint, chicken, honey, ham, fruit and nut, vanilla and cookie.
Mint
no, that's when I started getting silly, Mia, because that's where they are becoming very silly, okay? We just want our plain
chocolate tuna.
Is that an option? Well, it is the same with chocolate, right? I just want my dairy milk. I just want my plain dairy milk.
That's boring.
Do you want mandarin in it? No, I don't want mandarin in it. Do you want some turkey in it? No. Do you want tuna chocolate? Well, I might as well.
Do you know, I blame pads. That's where it
Okay.
started.
All right.
A hyper-fragmentation and diversification. Like, remember when you could just go and you'd buy pads
Yeah.
or you'd buy tampons. That was your choice. A pad, a
But
tampon.
now it's like, how heavy? How big's your
and
vag?
then it started with wings.
Yep.
And then it's like,
Absorbency.
would you like a tail? Would you like
Yeah.
some wings? Would you like wheels?
Would you like just a liner for a little leak? Is it maternity?
Yeah.
don't
Where's the
know.
leak coming from?
Do you want a nappy? Do you want a full nappy?
Yeah.
I don't know how many times today I'm going to have to point out to you how much classier than you bitches are. But different tunas for different occasions, guys. There is nothing nicer in a pasta sauce than a jar of chili tuna in oil. All you need to do is whack that in a bit of tomato sauce. You have a delicious dinner. You want the one with lemon to go in your salad. You want spring water, not oil, because it's not as heavy. I have a different tuna for every different need.
But do you need
and I love
pesto
that shit.
tuna?
Do you need
Does
pesto
that need
tuna?
to be a thing?
I don't, but I could see why it would make your boring ass salad at lunchtime a bit sexier.
Soy ginger
Come on,
chicken?
you lot.
You know what's
Lift your game.
happening is
Chicken-
that
I mean,
people
tuna,
are
see?
shopping without their glasses on.
Chicken of the sea.
It's true, I have picked up the wrong one
Yeah,
at times.
I bet.
That makes me sad.
I've done it with my chocolate and I've gone home and gone, "Well, I didn't want this. I didn't
What
want
did
my
you
orange.
have?
Just
Like-
orange or something." And I went, well, it's ruined the whole bar. And now I've given the supermarket the impression that I wanted this. I have become a statistic.
Did you eat it though?
complicit in
I'm
the-
complicit in
the
this.
tuna
I've rewarded this
confusion.
flawed system.
Could have taken it back.
Well, I didn't. I ate it, but I wasn't happy about it.
Feedback. That's why it's a gift.
Bridget, you're a widow with 2 wonderful children. My advice to you is put your own oxygen mask on first. You just have to get laid.
Shaz is right.
Oh my God.
It's been 4 years now. You're effectively a nun. A very, very naughty nun.
I've set you up on Tinder.
What's Tinder?
Bridget Jones is sleeping with that hot English backpacker from the White Lotus.
I did think he was hot.
There's a lot of words in that sentence.
The trailer for the new Bridget Jones reboot is out. And surprise, surprise, Bridget is now a horny midlife woman. The new movie, I don't think I need to explain Bridget Jones to you all, but Mia's looking at me in a way that suggests that I do. Bridget Jones
I'm just,
is a
do you know
series
what
of
I was,
movies from the 90s.
No, I was actually thinking, it's so funny, I've just got resting bitch face, but I was just thinking, are we going to have the debate again culturally about Renee Zellweger's weight?
No, let's not even
because
mention
I
it.
can't stand it.
Let's not even
I
mention
was
it.
thinking when you said horny midlife woman, I thought, I'm trying to think of an example of a midlife woman
Who
that's
isn't
not
horny?
horny in any art in the last 12
And
months.
also, big pants. We all wear them.
we do.
It's not an embarrassing thing now. Everybody wears them. They're cool, even on red carpets.
It's been a long time since Bridget Jones, but she's back, right? So it's coming out next year. The movie's called Mad About the Boy. Eye roll.
Oh, boy.
And Bridget is a widow. I'm about to ruin some days. This is not a spoiler. It's in the first 2 seconds of the trailer. Mark Darcy is dead. I repeat, Mark Darcy is dead. I hope I haven't ruined your day, but there you go.
This year been hard enough.
I know. Anyway, so Bridget is now 51. Renee herself is 55, but Bridget is 51. She is a widow. Mark has been dead for 4 years. She's got a couple of cute kids. She's trying to be a single mum. And she starts a relationship with 29-year-old Leo Woodhull, who is the hot backpacker in the White Lotus, right? Now, for one millennial columnist at least, the sight of Renee and Leo snuggling was the last straw. In a year when we've had Nicole Kidman, Laura Dern and Anne Hathaway, at least, I'm sure there are more, I just couldn't think of them, playing older women who are dating younger men. And of course, Kidman's doing it again in a very much hyped arty movie called Baby Girl, also out next year. The UK Times writer Charlie Gowans Eglinton, that is a very English name.
Is that a girl?
It's a girl. Thinks enough now. She writes, this has got to stop because there aren't enough younger men to go around. Have you seen how J-Lo looks in a sequin bodysuit at 55? Gwyneth Paltrow naked in her garden at 48. Pamela Anderson without a scrap of makeup on at 57. As a woman, I am in awe, but as a single woman in her 30s, I do not need the competition. With a disposable income I can't match. The 40 and 50-something women I know have hot bods toned from daily Pilates that they can afford and hot faces from weekly light therapy, facials and maybe a bit of Botox. 50 is a new 30, but with a property portfolio and without ticking biological clock anxiety. She goes on to say, though, that she gets it because who else would they date? Not men their own age, she says. That's a particularly bleak market, as I know. She says, I've always dated 5 to 10 years older myself. myself. But once that put the men into their 40s, something shifted. Suddenly they're bitter about their divorce, about losing the house in the divorce, about losing their hair. They seem to hate women and that I'm too old, even though I'm a decade younger than them.
Oh, wow.
She also writes that older women are no longer older, which also is making younger men more attractive. I still feel the same age, one mid-30s female friend told her, so I still fancy the same type. That means her new boyfriend is a few years younger. So, what do we think, Jessie? As an early 30s person, should the old ducks be leaving the young ducks for the young ducks?
I think it's important. I think it's aspirational. I think it's corrective and necessary. But look, women in their 30s, we need to be honest about who we are. And I can say this because I am one. We are neurotic. We're not in a great place. We're a little desperate. We are trying to go places, do things, potentially make babies, if that's on your list of things you want to do.
Yeah.
And that makes dating complicated and hard, and you come across as a bit intense. I say that as someone who has come across as a bit intense. The thing about women who are 25 or 45 or 55 is that they're chill. They're really chill. What's so intimidating about a 50-year...
Has she met anyone in their 40s or 50s?
She's met me. I'm very chill.
Oh, yeah, shit. Not you two.
I'm not a lot.
Well, you're not
I'm
dating
intense.
younger men, are you? But those women, she's just spot on. They're looking great. They know where they are in their professional life. They're not as anxious and like frazzled about the whole thing. They can buy more expensive clothes often, and they just dress really well. Like they've kind of found their personal style a little bit. They've either had kids or they've not had kids or whatever, and they're just comfortable in that decision. There's this independence that I think we're finding quite intimidating, and patriarchy teaches us that we must always be in competition, always. And so women have always had this thing with younger women where it's like territorial because we are taught that to be young and beautiful is our value. But now we're also looking up going, well, they're intimidating too because look at how they look and how they carry themselves. My only worry is when I look at all the women that you listed off, is the young man, if we're honest with ourselves, a reward for labour? And by that I mean labour of face and body.
Of maintenance.
Aesthetic labour.
High maintenance.
High maintenance, because Anne Hathaway, Nicole Kidman, Renee Zellweger are women who don't look like 55-year-old women.
But normal, in inverted commas, women of that age will tell you, if you ask them, and the ones who do not look like J-Lo, that if they are new to the dating market, I'm going to make a generalisation, it's quite common that when you're fresh back on the dating market after you've been off the market for a while, the younger man thing is very exciting, and many, many women go there, right? And they will tell you almost universally that those men do not give a shit about your stretch marks, about your flabby tummy, about your errant chin hairs. That's not what they're bothered about.
Do you reckon that's always been the case?
So that's good.
I wonder if that's always been the case.
So I guess what I'm saying is I don't think the younger men are only going for the Renee Zellwegers and the J-Los.
Okay.
But is that because in these women they're not assessing them through the lens of future mother of my child?
I think they just like the sex and the confidence and the fact that they're just like, these women want to have sex with them because they want to have some hot sex. They haven't been having it for a while. Here we go.
Can't get pregnant.
Maybe that dynamic has always existed, right? But dating apps has meant they can find each other because it might have been a little bit taboo previously.
Yes.
If you were an older woman, you would assume they're not interested in you. The younger man assumes you're not interested. But now there's like this, oh, we have found each other in the mess of dating, which is quite nice.
I want to know from you, Mia, do you think we're at the risk with all this pop culture that is all about this at the moment? It sort of felt at first like a really welcome subversion of the older man, younger woman trope, but are we now in danger of just creating another sad trope?
I think the problem with all of these pop culture references, and this is why the Bridget Jones thing is going to be interesting, because all the women that you've mentioned, Anne Hathaway, Nicole Kidman, J-Lo, when they're with these younger men, there's all this applause for, isn't this great? They're an older woman, but they don't look older. They don't look the way that most women their age look. So it's like you can be an older woman as long as you look like a much younger woman, because they're not having sex with Martha Stewart or Helen Mirren. And it's annoying that either you have to look ageless or like, you know, in your 30s like J-Lo and Nicole Kidman and all of those women. Or you can be Betty White. Well, she's dead, but you know what I mean. Martha Stewart. You can look like old, which means that you're then considered sexless. And just with Martha Stewart for a minute, I thought it was so interesting. I know we were talking about her last week, but that idea of she was the original influencer and the comparisons to Ballerina Farm and Nara Smith. The difference with Martha Stewart is that she wasn't doing it for the male gaze. She was doing it for herself. Whereas these women, they're looking hot while they're cooking, and cleaning and looking after the kids, whereas that was different. And my point is that you don't get the sense that these women that we're seeing depicted in culture are free of the male gaze. Even though on paper they are liberated from all of these things, I think you have made a really good point, Jessie, which is it's like the swan. There's so much going on under the surface to make them look like that.
Yeah, I've heard women in midlife talk about, I guess it's the patriarchal bargain of feeling as though tweaks or enhancements are necessary in order to...
Well, it's become baseline.
To keep your job or to... And I just wonder if this is an extension of that. If I'm consuming all of this culture, am I going... all of this work equals younger man?
There's a lot of truth to that. But as I said, this is not something that is only the premise of the tight Pilates, Botoxed ladies. This is lots of ordinary, and I know it's terrible language to say ordinary, not ordinary, but one of the number one things that midwomen will tell you about having sex with younger guys is they don't give a shit. And that's fantastic and freeing, right? One of the things that I think is interesting, because another reason why this might suddenly be everywhere is women have more power now about what they want to see and what they want to watch and what they want to make. There are more women in more positions of power in all of the companies making all of these things. And maybe they're like, I don't want to see constantly represented that I have to be having hot sex only with old guys. It's that too. It's like they're thinking, I want to see hot young men. And I think that's great, right? That's all we've got time for today. A massive thank you to all of you Out Louders for listening to today's show and, of course, to our wonderful team for putting it together. We're going to be back in your ears tomorrow.
Bye. Shout out to any Mamma Mia subscribers listening. If you love the show and you want to support us, subscribing to Mamma Mia is the very best way to do so. There's a link in the episode description.